time to taste our Midas Touch Golden Ale by Muntons. We brewed this 2 weeks ago. After a week of brewing and fermenting, we bottled it last week, and it's finally time to test it. Final. I'm very excited to see how it turns out. But before we taste it, let me show you how we bottled it. Welcome back, everyone. This is part 2 of that video that we made, A Beginner Tries to Brew Beer. In that video, we brewed our Midas Touch Golden Ale, and that's been sitting in our temperature control fridge for about a week. I would say 7 or 8 days, and it's looking like it's about ready to bottle. Last night, I turned down the temperature to about 2 or 3 degrees. It hasn't reached that temperature, but I'm trying to cold crash it. And now it's time to bottle. Before we start the video, I want to just mention that this is just a beginner video. It's only my second time ever brewing a beer. So this isn't an advanced video, and this isn't a tutorial by any means. But please enjoy and welcome. So behind me you can see a bunch of boxes. These came in last week. It's got a bunch of bottles. I didn't have a bunch of used. I've got like 6 or 8 used bottles that I'm going to be using, but that's not going to be enough for 23 liters. So we bought some glass bottles, but they're more expensive than the PET plastic ones. It's about $20 for 20, $1 a bottle. Too expensive to get 23 liters of that, so I bought 2 boxes. You can see the amber. Apparently the amber helps with the light penetration through the bottles, or light bleaching, or whatever they call it. So we're going to be using 1 box of 20 of these ones. We're going to be using our used bottles, which have about 6 of them. And then with the rest of the beer that we have in the fermenter, we'll be filling up some plastic ones, because this is $10 for 24 bottles, which hold 500 mils instead of these ones which hold 300. And this is a lot cheaper. So $10, $10 as opposed to $20. So I'm just going to use 1 box of the lovely glass ones, because I did mention in the last video that I want to make the Cooper's Pale Ale soon, and I would like to have some glass bottles left for that Cooper's batch. So we're just going to use 1 box of these 20 glass bottles. I've got a capper here behind me. This only cost $24 from Kegland. Everywhere else I was looking was like 80 bucks. Maybe it was 65 bucks or something like that. It was really expensive. This was $24 on my first batch ever, which was a stout. Remember I mentioned? This worked a treat. So we're going to be capping these with some cram caps. I've got the dextrose that I showed you guys last video to prime the bottles. And I have a bucket which I'm going to fill now away with some water and some sanitizer called Star San. It's a no rinse sanitizer, they say, so I can just keep them submerged for a couple minutes, let them drain, and I don't have to rinse them out or anything. Alright guys, I have sanitized all of this right now. This is 1 box of the glass bottles, which are about 330 or 370 mils, and 1 box of 20, that's 20 of those, and 1 box of 20 of these 500 mil. These are the PET plastic ones. I also disrupt the sediment as little as possible. Just because it's so bloody heavy. Okay guys, welcome back. I'm probably going to work on my knees a little bit just while I'm on camera, because the frame, I don't have like a wide or like a bigger frame that can show it, and you guys are right up against the wall or the window. So I can't get you guys further back enough, so this is going to be the angle that we're going to work on. We now have the beer here. You might not be able to see it all the way through, but you can kind of see that it's dropped down a little bit of a level, probably like 1 or 2 liters, or even 2.5. The reason we've lost volume is because every time that we have to test the gravity, the tube that you test the gravity in is quite big. I feel like it's very wasteful on beer. I might try and get a little smaller tube or use something else. So that's why we lost a little bit of that. I have behind me the green bottles, the used old one that I was talking about. So we're going to fill up those first. I have a bunch of the caps in a bowl. This is sanitizer, so they're just sitting in sanitizer until we need them. We've got the capper behind us, and I have sanitizer in a bottle because I'm going to be spraying this before we start. The next thing I want to talk about is this. These are little carbonation drops. They're basically just little hardened sugar in like a capsule form, and usually you put one of these, according to the instructions, one of these in a 330 or 370 ml bottle, or two of them in a 500 ml. Now, I'm not going to be using these, or I might use the rest of these, but like I showed you guys before, we have dextrose. We have dextrose to use. So I looked, and this is about the size. This, by the way, these little measuring things, I got 3 of them in different sizes. It came with my starter kit. The same as this came in it. My little bottling one came in it. This is already sanitized, by the way. So it's about this, just not full all the way. So I'm going to be using this as a little measuring. We'll be getting the dextrose, and we'll be filling up our beer bottles with that. And this is now lovely and sanitized. What I'm going to get as well is I'm going to get a bowl down here, because even though this won't let, this bottling one does work pretty well, I don't want to let get a big mess on the floor, because sometimes you do get little drips. So let me get a bowl, and I'll get the bag of dextrose so we can start. Okay. We're back. We just finished putting about 1.5, like 1 full of these and a half, or about 2 not quite full ones of these on each 500 ml ones, and 1 not quite full on each of the 370, 330, whatever they are, smaller ones, the glass ones. That took a bit of time. I would say it took me about 5 minutes, and it was sloppy work. I think quite a little bit of it would fall down the side. Thankfully, I've got all the bottles on the tea towel on my desk, so I'm not making a big mess. I'll just collect that tea towel later on and wash it. So I'm going to put the dextrose away. That should be all we need, unless we end up needing more bottles for this. I'll do that all off stream. I'm just going to bottle a couple of these on, not off stream, on video. I'm going to bottle a couple of these in front of you guys, so you can see what I'm going to do. And then I'll come back, show you when they're all bottled, and then we'll come back again in a week and a half on the 23rd or the 24th for a bit of a taste tasting, and hopefully they've matured by then. With my very first ever brew, that stout that I've mentioned a couple times, this one here has 1 carbonation drop. So let me open up the bottle, the fermenter's top a little bit, just so that we don't have it pressurized. Okay, the lid's still on there, it's just loose, and the airlock is off it. Yeah, those ones there, my very first ever brew. I tried it after 1 week in the bottles with beer, with the little sugar droplets, and they were flat, and they weren't. You could taste that it was very young. And then the second week, they were very well carbonated. They just tasted so differently. It was a delicious stout. I've still got a bunch of bottles. I'll show it to you guys when we come back to taste these. I'll show you my stouts as well. But that one took 2 weeks. This one here, because we're running out of time, I'm trying to make them for Christmas. We're gonna have to, we only have a week and a half. It's the 15th, and Christmas is on the 20th. We celebrate on the 24th. It's on the 25th, so we might taste this on the 23rd. So we have 8 days. It's got like a week and a half. It's gonna have like a week and a half in the bottles, and then I'm gonna throw them in the fridge, and we'll try them. And hopefully they're ready. If they're not ready, we'll just have to serve the stout when people come over for Christmas. And if they are ready, well, that'll be good news. We'll see anyways. You guys will, it won't be long for you guys. It'll just be a couple minutes. Okay, there it is. So this here has like a tiny little valve. There's beer in this thing, but this little valve here prevents it from coming down. It does drip a little bit. I have a bowl to catch the drips. So when we put the bottle in there and push the valve in, it'll allow the beer to rush on down, which is pretty handy. I don't see any sediment. I did try and cold crash it. We didn't have that much time. You can see that if I let it go right to the edge and then I take out, because of the displacement that the wand itself does, you end up getting a really well amount, like a good serving. This is what you would expect from almost a commercial thing. Okay, so let me just, that's one with the carbonation drops. Let me get another one with the sugar. This is the dextrose that we measured into it. So we're going to fill this one up and we're going to cap it, and then I'm going to do one of the PET ones and one of the glass ones, and we'll cap those, and then I'll skip until I'm done. Okay, let me put this here. I'll get, this one has 2 drops. This is a PET 500ml one. Let me get one with the sugar. Ooh, lucky I didn't drop the ones with the sugar. This one here has the sugar, so we'll do one of those. And then I'll get, all of the glass ones have sugar. I didn't have any carbonation drops left. So let's bottle these ones up, and then I'll cap all of these so you guys can see, and then we'll skip through. Oh, it's actually harder for me to see on these ones. The green ones I could really clearly see where it was positioned. You can see a little bit dust here. That's the sugar. It's not actually dust, that's the sugar. It went to the side. These have been very thoroughly washed and sanitized. The reason I put so much effort into sanitizing is because people online really stress sanitation. Like, not having a sanitary environment, that's obvious, as in like sanitizing everything. This one takes a lot longer to fill. Ooh, it's so hard to see this ones. The PET brand ones are even harder to see than the brown glass ones. This one here has the 2 carbonation drops. Ooh, I can't see nothing. Ooh, getting a tiny little bit of spill, but it is what it is. Okay, now, all right, I've just changed the angle so you guys can see. Hopefully you guys can see that. So here is the capper that we have. All we're going to do is get one of the caps are currently sitting in the sanitizing solution. So they're all very clean. Now this is a little bit low. I might raise that up. There's just a little button here that I can use to raise. And then I'll adjust it. Okay, I think that's fine. Okay, now I'm just going to put a bit of pressure. It's 1, and I might turn it just for good measure. 2. Okay, let me just turn it around. Yeah, I'm just checking to make sure it's got a good cap. You guys can see that there's a little bit of a dent on the top, and it seems like it's well carbonated. Now this was one with the sugar, and it almost, like, I can't see the sugar anymore. It's almost like that dextrose immediately combines into the liquid. And that's kind of my hope in using the dextrose. The reason is that, like I said, we don't have all that much time. So my hope is that yeah, we got the dent. My hope is that the dextrose will dissolve into the fluid a little bit faster, and it'll just start conditioning in the bottles all the faster. Bit of a dent, no leak. This one here, you can hear the carbonation drops. Okay. And all we're going to do with this one is screw it on, and we'll go nice and tight. Okay, that's nice and tight. Let's get another one. It's almost like you got to push in first. Yeah, push in first and then twist it on. Okay, there we go. So this one is carbonation drops. I can hear them in there, and they're not leaking. and this one is sugar. And I can still see some of the sugar in there. Hopefully it dissolves. So there we go, guys, look at that. How easy is that? If you don't have a capper or anything, not only is this the cheaper option, it's the easier option. And you're unlikely to shatter these. Alright guys, so that's the 2 plastic ones and 3 of the glass ones, 1 of the brown ones and 2 of the green ones. I will mention that one of these green ones, these are the Heineken bottles. This is actually one of the twist top ones, and I didn't realize that the first time I made a beer, and so I pushed on the caps and it seemed to work just fine. I always just double tap. I don't know if you have to go double, but I did that, and the beer doesn't spill out. The carbonation doesn't spill out. I tried them with my stout, and even the twisty top ones seem to be fine with this. I think I heard that you need special crown cappers. I don't know if these are special ones or not. They just look normal to me, but they do have like a nice thick rubber on the inside. But those worked beautifully. So let me just pause the camera. I'm going to bottle all of these beers, and then I'll come back and I'll show you what we've done, okay? Alright people, we just finished bottling it. You can see the beer's all the way down to here. There's a little tiny bit of sediment there, and I was having to tilt the fermenter this way just to get the bottles filled. There's a tiny bit more here that I could get, but I've got so many bottles, I think I'm gonna leave that behind. I've filled up all of the 500ml ones. There's 24 of these 500ml ones. I filled up all of these ones, which are 370ml, and then I've got my 5 green used, very cleaned, but you know, those bottles. So there's a ton of beer here. Looks pretty sweet. I'm gonna leave these now in a dark place to have a second fermentation so that they can carbonate in the bottles. And we will see you guys in a week and a half for the tasting. Won't be long for you guys. Yeah, that was a lot more work than it is gonna be for me to taste it. Last night I left this in the fridge, so hopefully this has helped a little bit of the yeast go to the bottom. I don't expect it's gonna be crystal clear. Apparently when you chill your beers in the fridge, they get a chill haze as well. We'll see what happens, but let's have a look. If I make a mess, I'll have a napkin here. Let's see how we go. Okay, we've got a little psst. Very nice. I'll pour it down try to do it properly. There's a little bit of a ooh. Now the hope for this beer, it looks very carbonated, so I'm thinking it might be good and ready. Tiny little bit left in the bottle. I might leave that because at this point it's probably combined with the sediment in the bottom. Let's have a look. Oh yeah, you can see a little bit of a head, probably not as much. I wonder, it's only been in the bottles for a week. I wonder once it bottle conditions a little bit more, if it'll have a thicker head. But it is very, because it's a golden ale, it is very much amber-like. I don't know if you guys can see those bubbles going up, but you can definitely see the carbonation. It smells like a beer. It still smells very fresh. I can almost, you know that smell of fermentation? I feel like I can still smell that a little bit. And I'm not smelling too much else. The smell of that strong malty smell has kind of gone away. And it just smells like a nice crisp beer. It starts off very similar. I don't know if you guys have ever tried a Heineken. It starts off, I haven't tasted too many, so for me to compare it to, it starts off nice and clear and crisp, very refreshing, and then it ends up with like a roasty flavor. I didn't smell the maltiness, but I can very much taste a malt-like flavor, which is pleasant. So I was hoping it would taste a little bit lighter, but I think this is going to be fine. It does taste a little bit fresh when going down the back of the throat. There is a little bit of that, I wouldn't say rough. It's definitely not a smooth beer yet, but you can taste the alcohol near the back of the throat. But it is a lot lighter than the one my very first ever brew, which I'll probably open up and show you guys how that turned out because I didn't get to do that on video. There's a roasty flavor. Bordering, I would say bordering burnt. When we combined the extracts and the water and stuff into the fermenter, and I tested the original gravity, I had a taste after we tested the original gravity. I tasted just that sweet liquid before fermentation, and it was very off-putting. There was a burnt, very much like a seared taste to it, and it was just sweet and burnt. And I was like, oh, what's this beer going to turn out? This has that, how would I say it? Burnt-like taste after it goes down. So let me taste this. Now this isn't going to be an apples to apple comparison, because my very first ever brew was a stout. This only cost me $28. It was reduced from $38, but all that was in the box were 2 cans of extracts, and that's it, from Muntons. This one here was a can of, I can't remember if it was Muntons or if it was another company's stout can extract. It had a sack of extract. I think that was from, I'm forgetting the companies. So it had a can and a sack. Both of those were extracts for stouts. And then it had a bag of grains for steeping. The bag also had some lactose powder. It had a bag of hops. And then it even had a little bottle of licorice. This was about $60, where this was, $30. So it would be impossible for me to compare these apples to apples when this one was a lot more expensive and it had a lot more stuff to it. But I do want to show you guys this because I didn't record my first ever brew, and this turned out so well that I do want you guys to see. So yeah, this is absolutely not an apples to apples comparison. Not only that, but this has been in the bottles for about, I would say, a month and a half. So it's been conditioning and maturing, and it turned out this was delicious. Probably 2 weeks into its bottle. I tasted this a week into the bottle, and it was flat. And then a week later, so 2 weeks after the bottle, it was good, but only the glass bottles. The bottles that I used, which were plastic, and I didn't have the proper PET ones at the time, I used the water bottles. They didn't taste very good. And it was only like a month after that they were in the bottles that even the water bottle ones tasted good. So no idea why that happened. Let me give you a closer look. You can see that nice thick head. And that's just naturally carbonated in the bottles. There's no nitrogen in this stout. I love good stout. Honestly, I shared some of these ones around work, and Simon, a friend of mine at work, he said it was so good he would buy it. And it really is. This is just absolutely so delicious. And I'll have to re-rate it once it mellows down and matures. I'll give it another taste. Yeah, so it's beautiful in the mouth. Actually, it's not that bad. I'll go 6 out of 10. I'll change mine to 6 out of 10. I think if I drink this while I'm eating, and then, or drinking something else, and that aftertaste mellows out with something else, I think that's perfectly palatable. I'm gonna leave you guys there. Thank you very much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed a beginner tries to brew beer. I only showed this one not to do a side-by-side comparison because again, this was $60. This was very expensive, but it had so much more stuff into it, like hops, steeping grains, lactic powder, and licorice bottles. But this is so good. This was my first ever brew, and this got me so excited about brewing. I am gonna make one more video. When you're making these beers and you have your combined liquid in a fermenter, and you see 20 liters or 23 liters, it seems like a lot and it's very heavy, but you can't really picture just how much it is. And then when you bottle it and you get all these 50, 60 bottles, you're like, oh my God, that's a lot of beer. I'm not a big drinker. I do love beer. I love beer. But I drink on special occasions. Christmas, holiday times, birthdays. Sometimes family members come over and we'll sit around this table. We're not going to have all the Christmas decorations on the normal day, but we'll have a barbecue or we'll have some kind of food and we'll share some beers. So we'll definitely drink them, but we'll go through them pretty slowly. And I already have like 30 or 40 bottles of these still left, maybe 30, 35. I did share some around. And now I've got like 50 of these bottles, and hopefully they mellow down so I can actually enjoy them a little bit more. So making more beer while I still have all of that would be crazy, but I did promise on the last video that we were going to brew this, and I've already bought it. I already have the empty bottles for it. So we are going to make, maybe next week or maybe the week after, the Cooper's Australian Pale Ale. This is very highly rated on the internet. People can't seem to, rate it high enough. And they recommend you brew it with Brew Enhancer 2. So we're going to make this. It's going to be another simple, we'll make it a very short video. We'll combine this and this in the fermenter with some water, get it up to 23 liters. A lot of people say just go up to 20 liters. I don't know if they're saying that because they keg it and the corny kegs are 19 liters, and by the time you leave your sediment behind, you've got 19 liters, so they just brew 20 liters. Or if it's, some people say it's to give it more of a body, so that you don't have such a thin, no-bodied beverage, and to give it more flavor. We'll see. Well, I'll think about that later. I'll either brew it to 23 liters, like the instructions say, or brew it to 20 liters. For me, it would just be so I don't have so much beer. But this is going to be Australia's Pale Ale, and it sounds like that's going to be the light, crisp, refreshing drink that I'm looking for, which is what I wanted this to be. As a golden ale, in terms of the color, I'm quite pleased with that. I don't know if you guys can see it. There's a tarp behind the window here. We used to have a lovely tree giving us shade, and the homeowner removed that because it was ruining the gutters. So the tree's gone, and we needed some kind of protection from the sun, so I kind of put that up here, and I put like a little roofing over there. But it looks almost amber. It looks amber. The color of it, it's actually very clear. I can see my fingers through it. I'm very pleased with the visual of it. I'm very pleased with how it retains a bit of a head. I'm just not pleased with the aftertaste. There's a bit of a burnt aftertaste. Doesn't linger. I can't taste it anymore, but while I'm drinking it. So hopefully that mellows down with aging. Alright. I hope you enjoyed that video. I definitely did. We're going to come back in a couple of weeks to brew one more beer, and then we're probably going to leave the beers for like a year or 6 months at least, just to give us time to drink some of that slowly, because we don't drink that much. And then we'll come back. Maybe we'll do, when we do come back in 6 months to a year, we'll do an all grain, maybe a brew in a bag, or maybe I'll try, if If after Christmas on Boxing Day, they do a special on those all-in-one brew systems like the Brewzilla, if it gets reduced like 30, 40, maybe even 50%, I might even get one of those now when it goes on special for them. But if it's too much money, I'm just gonna get a bag. I've got a nice big pot. We could probably try it, brew in a bag, do an all grain stouts or something nice and crisp like a lager, and we'll try that. Okay guys, thank you very much for tuning in. I had a lot of fun. Merry Christmas. Hope you guys enjoy your holiday seasons. I'm working, but I hope you guys have some time off. I'm gonna be streaming, so if you guys are my usual viewers, you'll see me on stream. I'll be streaming on Christmas Day. And if you're new here and you want to check out the Twitch channel, I'll be on. I can't give you a schedule, but when I'm not working, I'll be there. And you can click on the link down below to find me there. Okay? Thank you very much. Merry Christmas. Have a good day.